Hello everyone, I Kanchan Shetty welcome you all my dear students of MCOM second year on this platform of KTHM e-learning. Today we are going to start third chapter of the subject Specialized Auditing Paper 6, that is Audit of Banks. Friends, in the previous lecture we have completed second chapter of this subject, that is Internal Audit, and now in today's lecture we are going to understand the introduction and approach of bank audit. After that we will discuss the salient features of enactment affecting banks, and then we will study the steps in bank audit. So let's move to the introduction. Friends, the bank audit is a balance sheet audit. Concentration in the case of bank audit is mainly on the figures appearing in the balance sheet as on the date of year end. Transactions which have taken place during the year are not subject to a detailed review and verification in case of banks. This is based of the assessment that internal control procedures in a bank generally would take care of the day-to-day transactions. It is therefore not necessary as well as not feasible for an audit to carry out even a sample check of thousands of transactions recorded in the banks. Now let's see the approach of bank audit. There are some points of approach of bank audit. First is rigorous internal control system. They have custody of large volumes of monetary items, including cash and negotiable instruments, whose physical security has to be ensured. This applies to both the storage and the transfer of monetary items and makes banks vulnerable to misappropriation and fraud. They therefore need to establish formal operating procedure, well defined limits for individual discretion, and rigorous system of internal control. Second is complex accounting system. Friends, they engage in a large volume variety of transactions in terms of both number and values. This necessarily requires complex accounting and internal system. Then third one is greater decentralization of authority. They normally operate through a wide network of branches and departments which are geographically dispersed. This necessarily involves a greater decentralization of authority and dispersal of accounting and control functions, with consequent difficulties in maintaining uniform operating practices and accounting systems, particularly when the branch network transcends national boundaries. And fourth is off balance sheet items. They often assume significant commitments without any transfer of funds. These items are commonly called off balance sheet items, may not involve accounting entries, and consequently the failure to record such items may be difficult to detect. And last point is regulatory requirements. They are regulated by governmental authorities, and the resultant regulatory requirements often influence accounting and auditing practices in the banking sector. Now we are going to see the salient features of enactment affecting banks. So the first feature is restriction on business. According to Bank Regulation Act, a banking company is one which carries on the business of banking in India and includes foreign company carrying on banking business in India. A banking company is not allowed to carry on any business except those permitted under section 6 subsection I. Besides the business of banking as defined, section 8 of the Act specifically prohibits banks to deal in trading of goods. Section 13 contains restriction on payment of brokerage or discount for remuneration on the sale of shares at a rate exceeding 2 and 1/2 percentage. Section 19 prohibits forming of subsidiary company except for the purposes specified. Section 14 prohibits banks to create charges on unpaid capital. Similarly, the banks cannot create floating charges on its understanding or any property without the permission of RBI. The auditor must be aware of such restrictions while auditing the bank transactions. He must study the provisions of these acts before commencing his audit program. Next feature is capital requirement. Section 11 and 12 of the Banking Regulation Act contain the provision in respect of minimum capital to be maintained by banks. The Act contains the provisions in respect of minimum amount of capital in terms of rupees to be raised and kept for various banks. According to section 12 of the Act, the subscribed capital of the bank should not be less than 50% of authorized capital and paid up capital should not be less than 50% of the subscribed capital. RBI has issued circular requiring banks to meet capital adequacy ratio. Third feature is reserve fund. Section 17 of the Act lays down that every banking company must transfer at least 20% of its net profits to reserve fund. This is a statutory reserve. It must be shown separately in the balance sheet. This reserve must be kept intact. Next feature is cash reserve and statutory liquidity reserve. Section 18 of the Act lays down that each banking company must maintain cash reserve with RBI for a sum equal to at least 3% of its time and demand liabilities. Similarly, provision is found in section 42 of the Reserve Bank of India Act. It applies to scheduled bank only. Therefore, scheduled bank must maintain cash reserve with RBI for a sum not less than 3% of its time and demand liabilities. In addition to these, every banks must maintain with RBI statutory liquidity reserve for a sum prescribed by RBI. The SLR means statutory liquidity ratio is to be maintained in the form of cash, gold or approved securities. The SLR should not be less than 25% of total demands and time liabilities. Next feature of restriction on investment. A banking company cannot hold shares whether as pledge, mortgage or absolute owner of other companies exceeding 30% of its own paid up capital and reserve or 30% of capital of other companies which is less. Then restriction on loans and advances. A banking company cannot advance loans on the security of its own shares. It cannot give unsecured loan or advance to any of its director or firm or private company in which such director is interested. Again, permission from RBI is to be obtained for remitting the whole or part of debt due by director to it. RBI is empowered to give direction to banking companies in regard. So advances granted to directors, RBI may require banks to obtain still more security or refuse further loans or recall the loans already granted to them. The next feature is restriction on dividend. Banks cannot pay dividend unless all capitalized expenses are fully wiped off. Next is accounting. According to section 29, every banking company has to prepare its financial statements in the portal prescribed in third schedule as of 31st March of the each year, and last feature is audit. Section 30 contains the provisions for audit of banking company. The accounts of Indian banking companies shall be audited by chartered accountants. The appointment powers, duties, removal and liabilities of auditor are as same as company's auditor. Now let's discuss the steps in bank audit. So the first step in bank audit is preliminary work. Friends, in performing the audit of financial statements, the auditor should have or obtain knowledge of the business sufficient to enable the auditor to identify and understand the events, transactions and practices that in the auditor's judgment may have a significant effect on the financial statements or on the examination or audit report. The auditor's level of knowledge for an engagement would include a general knowledge of the economy and the industry within which the entity operates, and a more particular knowledge of how the entity operates. Knowledge of the business provides a frame of reference within which the auditor exercises professional judgment and assists him in assessing risk and identifying problems, planning and performing the audit effectively and efficiently, and evaluating the audit evidence. The auditor should also obtain an understanding of the accounting system of the bank and the terminology used by the bank to describe various types of transactions and operations. Next step is evaluation of the internal control system. Internal control evaluation is an important element of the audit process in the case of audit of banks. It assumes even greater importance due to the enormous volume of transactions entered into by banks. Evaluation of designs and operation of the internal control system enables the bank auditor to perform more effective audits. The auditor should therefore study and evaluate the design and operation of internal controls. This would assist him in determining the nature, timing and extent of substantive procedures in various areas depending upon whether the internal controls are adequate and observed in practice. Next step in bank audit is preparation of the audit program for substantive testing and its execution. Friends, having familiarized himself with the requirements of audit, the auditor should prepare an audit program for substantive testing which should adequately cover the scope of his work. In framing the audit program, due weight age should be given by the auditor to areas where in his few, there are weakness in the internal control. The audit program for central auditors would be different from that of the branch auditors. At the branch level, basic banking operations are to be covered by the audit. On the other hand, the central auditors have to deal with consolidation of branch returns, both audited and unaudited investments and items normally dealt with at the head office. And last step in bank audit is preparation and submission of the audit report, be outlined in the letter for confirmation. The audit report is the end product of the audit. It is through the medium of the audit report that the auditor conveys his observation or comments on the financial statements. The form and content of the audit report should be determined by the auditor, taking into account his terms of engagement and applicable statutory, regulatory, and professional require. Thank you.